Today is really a thinking class, and the three of you are doing all the thinking, and not me. You know what I mean? I don't get paid to think, so you're going to do all the thinking on behalf of the class. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to walk through something that is just really, really complex. Okay? Most of us stay away from these questions because because it's too complex and we don't spend the amount of time we really need to look at it, the range of issues, or we're afraid to touch them because we're afraid that we're going to come off as racist. Okay? The three of you, I chose you because you all said that you really liked sharing opinions and thoughts and that you're willing to be outside the box. And so, okay, let's do it. Let's think together here. So the cause that we're going to look at is inequality. Okay, so you can just turn in the direction wherever you need to go, on this side, whatever is easiest for you. But so let's look at the first slide. And by the way, I think this is a really cool class in the sense that these are really important issues to look at. So just to keep us so we're on the same page, this is a breakdown of household income in the United States. Okay, so that means that 18.1% of households, this is the 2020 census, made under $25,000. Now, this is households. This includes, a household that has 5 income earners in the household. A household which is, by far more likely to be probably immigrants or at the lower end of the economic ladder. Notice I said or at the lower end, right? Because, the more money you make, it's just different, right? There are cultural factors, there are lots of factors, but 10.3% of households make $200,000 or more. And $200,000 could be a household with 5 people making $40,000 or one person making $500,000. But that's what it looks like. So that the first thing you want to look at there, everybody, is kind of can you really situate yourself, situate your own household. Those of you who are Americans and those who are not Americans and from the U.S., maybe situation just who you are in the context of that. So okay, let's go to the next slide. So now, these are census data, and this is income and household income by race and culture. In the case of Hispanics of any race, it's ethnicity, right? It's culture, it's not race. But we're going to go ethno-racial background. Now, look at that. So you all up in the front, right? Because you're going to be asked to explain this in a few minutes. Look at that. Look at those differences. And one of the great struggles in teaching a class like Social 19 or talking about these issues is how we explain these differences, because these are pretty significant differences. If you look at black households at the bottom, we're at a little over $40,000. Maybe, as best as I can see, maybe about $43,000. And then you look at Asian households and you're up over 90. How do you explain that? What is the explanation? Can you hold that for a second? And how you explain it is going to say a lot about who you are and what you're thinking. Okay? So, thanks. Now, mind you, go to the next one. Okay, here's household net worth. And what we're talking about net worth. We're talking about adding up all of your assets and subtracting your debt. So if you buy a house for $400,000 and you take a loan of $300,000 and you put $100,000 down, and that's all the money you have in the world, well, you're not worth $400,000. You're worth $100,000 because $100,000 is what you have in the equity of that house, unless you have other things that are saved up, right? So that's net worth. So you take all of your assets, major assets. We're not talking about like your cell phone or something, and you subtract your debt. That's your net worth. Now, there's the median and there's the average, the mean. And the average, to be really clear, so we're all on the same page here, the average is when you take, just in this classroom, we take everybody's net worth and we add it all up and we subtract by the number of people in this classroom. And the number we get is the mean or the average net worth. But here's the problem. That includes if this guy is worth $500 million and this woman right here is worth $300 million and somebody else is worth $100 million and the rest of you are just kind of average what we would expect as college students, the net worth of everybody is going to be really, really high, inordinately high. So it doesn't tell us anything about your actual net worth. It's going to be inflated. So that means in the United States, when we add like, Bezos and Gates and Warren Buffett and all these billionaires into this, they very seriously overinflate the net worth. So you look at the average just for white people at $980,000. But that's inflated. But now what we do is we say, well, let's not do it that way. What if we do this? What if we take everybody here in class and we line you up? Once again, we take you outside and we take you up on Shortledge Road and we take the poorest person in class and then we take the second poorest and third poorest and we take you all the way down the line to the wealthiest person in class. Then we got 700 plus people who are standing in that line, and then we go right to the center. And we say, okay, who's exactly in the center? And then we say, okay, what's your net worth? And then that becomes the median net worth, okay? So we take half the people are above this, half the people are below this. This is where we're at. So the extremely poor people or the extremely rich people don't throw askew this analysis. And so when we do that, look what happens to the household net worth in the United States. It drops considerably, okay? And that's the one we want to use, always. When we're talking about these kinds of things, we want to look at median, all right? So, now, can you introduce yourselves? Actually, I should have done that earlier, but we'll start with Amani.
My name is Amani Raymond. I am a junior, and I'm an accounting major, and I'm just happy to be here.
Wait, hang on one second. Can you, Nish, can you get one of the side cameras on the overhead here, please? So people can see oh, there you are. Team. Can you get one of the side cameras on the overhead? All right. All right. Go ahead, man. So what's your major again?
Accounting.
Accounting? Okay. And where'd you say you were from?
I'm from St. Lucia.
Ah, St. Lucia.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, you're originally from St. Lucia?
No, I was born here, but I moved over there when I was young.
Yeah? And so
both my parents are from there.
So when you came to Penn State, you came from there?
Yeah.
Why'd you come to Penn State? What do you like? Wait, what year are you?
I'm a junior.
So you've spent 2 winters here.
Yeah, I haven't spent the winter. I went back home for the winter, but
For the first winter, because it was COVID.
Yeah.
But you're going to be here this winter.
Yeah.
And you could be in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
All right, dude. All right. That's all. All right.
Where is St. Lucia?
Huh?
Where is St. Lucia?
St. Lucia.
Yeah, St. Lucia.
It's in the Caribbean.
It's in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's nice and warm. Did they get hit by this hurricane, by the way?
No.
They didn't. Yeah, they were too far east. All right, go ahead. Yes.
My name is Paridi. I'm a junior, and I'm in the BSMBA program at Penn State.
You're a junior. Mm-hmm. And what's your ancestry? What's your background?
So I was born and raised in America, but both of my parents are from India. Like, they were born there.
Born in India?
Yeah.
Do you go to India?
Yeah, I used to go like every other year.
Uh-huh.
My mom is like fully grown up there. She just came here to get married.
Okay. All right, cool. Bro.
My name is Kyle. I'm a senior majoring in biochem molecular biology.
Wait, biochem and molecular
And
biology?
molecular. It's a double major option.
Okay, cool. All right, man. And where are you from?
From York, Pennsylvania. It's just north of the Maryland border.
Yep. All right, cool. All right, man. So listen. So here's what I would like for you all to do, if you could. Can you go to the next slide? Remember the class I did on this issue? Remember when I was walking back and forth and I was trying to look at the causes of human behavior and why people do what they do and how we come to understand that and so on. And I was kind of coming down here and talking about all the kind of choices people make. And I was down at this end and I'm talking about all the things that happen that are, remember that? Okay, can one of you just I'm going to sit down. Can one of you just return and summarize that to the class? Can you do that? Who wants to do it?
Well, from what I remember,
Stand up, though. You'll think better if you're on your feet.
so
Go
from
ahead,
what I
man.
remember, I think he was just trying to say that we were like puppets, I guess. So he was talking about the string going around everyone, holding up like a string, and saying that that the choices that we make aren't really ours. It's just that there are factors outside of our control that control our circumstances. So that's the gist of it, I guess. I think. Am I right?
There's no right or wrong, my friend.
All right. Amen.
All right. Anyone want to add to that? You going to stand behind it? You want to add something? I mean,
I was just going to say we're influenced by like the society that we live in and the people that we're surrounded with. So if we live somewhere, we're more likely to make choices that other people around us are making and doing things socially as other people around us do as well.
okay, so hang on. So is that for everybody, or is that just part of it, or is that explain further if you
That's
could?
part of it, and I would say like how much you want to fit in with the people around you depends on how much you act like the people around you as well.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? Bro, do you want to add? Do you want to add more?
I don't have anything
You all
else.
could talk for a half hour and still barely scratch the surface.
I guess I'd just say that there's decisions that you can make in life, and then there's confounding factors that are hard to take into account because it kind of encapsulates the idea of perspectivism. And
Wait, what do you mean by perspectivism? I like that.
So you're locked in your own experiences, in your own shoes, and people around you see the world differently because of their different experiences. So I think that being kind of locked in your own perspective limits you to be able to identify the confounding factors that really impede on your decision making and free will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. I think the three of you so here we go, right? I'm going to take what you just said and I'm going to summarize. Free will. So you're down here. So people are making decisions, right? And those decisions affect their lives about all sorts of things. And for whatever reason, they make decisions. Maybe it just comes from within. Maybe their crown chakra opens up. Maybe somebody tells them what to do and they believe it. Whatever it is, they decide to accept the culture of their family or however it is, they make some decisions. At the same time, down here, right? So now you have these questions that, well, hang on a second, but a lot of things happen that we can't really control, right? So the fact that I'm a man, the fact that I'm white, the fact that I grew up in the class that I grew up in, the fact that I live in state college, the fact that, there are all sorts of things that are going to affect me, and they're going to affect the way I think about the decisions I make, and they're also going to affect the way things happen to me, like that I don't control. So things like, for example, your parents, when you were 2 years old, could have decided, hey, we're going to move back to India. Now, yeah, we were born here, but now we're going to move back to India. Or you could be going back to India for 5 months out of the year. And that would radically change who you are and what you are. And you could have not been born in York, PA. You could have been born in Connecticut or somewhere, or in LA, or that would change who you are, or in the Caribbean. So this is what we're dealing with now. Okay, you got these two sets of explanations that are coming together. So now, okay, next slide. This is a different way to say that. Okay, people make their own decisions, and when people are making their own decisions, people have the power to overcome the obstacles. Because remember when I gave the story about kind of going up the stairs? It's like, oh, I'm going to make this decision to really learn about what the obstacles are going to be for me. So, who knows what it is, right? Maybe it's that I grew up with like crooked teeth, which I did. See that? Look at that right there. Can you get that? Hang on. Can you see my teeth, Kara? Right there? But in my world, my mom never thought about fixing my crooked teeth. Because we didn't have the money, and only rich kids got braces. I think in my entire school, my entire grade school, like starting in, when you start getting braces, like what age? What's middle school, right? Like 6th grade or so?
I mean, I never got braces, so.
Yeah, all right, so maybe middle school, right? No, maybe one kid out of like 250 in the middle school that I went to had braces. Nobody could afford braces. We couldn't afford braces. My mother never thought about it. But maybe I had said, man, I want to join a different class. You join a different class, there are a lot of signals that you can enter that class or not enter that class. And like a signal would be, and this is a little, those of you who are interviewing for jobs, unless you're cool, unless you have really cool shoes and a really cool belt, and you know what that means, now that I just said it, do not wear black shoes with a brown belt or a black belt with brown shoes, my friends, okay? Unless you're a hipster and you can pull that off, that's just a signal that says, man, you're not. No. There's certain signals for the rich people, right? Like certain signals for you're like part of the rich class. One is, what kind of wallet do you carry?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like, when you say, like, it's a signal, like, in that sense of style, I think if anyone from any class is educated enough, they can, I guess, acquire any type of style. Because I don't consider myself rich, but when you talked about, matching your belt with, with your color of your shoe, that's something that was brought up with. Like my dad taught me to, have a certain sense of style, even though I didn't grow up rich. So I don't necessarily think, that is a signal, but I do believe that there are signals. But I think it all just comes to like, how you're raised or whatnot.
Okay, listen, this is the point. But that is a signal. If you're cool, if you got a cool belt and cool shoes thing, you're going to pull that off. But if you're just a standard, you went downtown and you bought the $189 suit from here on Allen Street, and you picked up a belt and you grabbed some shoes, or you didn't get the belt because you have a belt at home and it's a brown one and you're wearing black shoes, and you go in like that, that's just a tip-off that you bought a $189 suit. And you're applying for a job for a particular organization, and you're like, you don't fit. And you're not going to fit. Just like I may not fit with my crooked teeth. But I didn't have that. I didn't see that crooked teeth might be an obstacle. And plus, it's on my lower lip. You know what I mean? Dude, you got braces. Killing it, man. And so, like, if I would have seen that and be like, oh, man, I want to, like, join. I'm going to try to be a part of something else, so I got to pull this off. I don't want to signal that I grew up like this poor white kid in Toledo. Like, come on, man. And so, like, I see that's an obstacle. I'm going to address it. And so I make these decisions. Down here, so we can overcome most any obstacle. Down here, people, listen, man, we all follow stuff around us. There's things that are affecting our lives we'll never see, we'll never understand. You'll never know which person you're interviewing with sees your black and brown mismatch, and they're just like, no. Or sees like your crooked teeth and be like, unless you're British or something, because Brits don't really, because they don't see teeth in the same way that Americans do, so it doesn't really matter. But, whatever. That's a cultural thing. And there's nothing wrong with crooked teeth. But the point is, they might be like, nah, you don't fit. It signals that you're not going to fit in that culture. And it's not about black skin or brown skin or whatever. It's about pulling it off. I mean, it can be about that too. Okay, so listen, let's go to the next one. All right, so here's what I want you all to do. I want you to take this personal choice and external factors and forces, and I want you to explain those slides as best you can. What are some, and so here, I actually thought out my first question. It's actually really simple. How do we understand this slide? How do we understand the slide? Look. These are fighting words right here, man. This is what we're arguing about in society. Look where here, man. Mind you, these are average. These are entire populations of people. This isn't just one person or one person in a room of 700 people. This is adding up entire populations of people. Look where black people are compared to Hispanics, compared to white people, compared to Asians. Dude, look at that. How do we understand this from within the context of what we just talked about?
I feel like it would be really useful here to have like a population density map of the United States for each race.
Why is that?
Because if we're gonna go in the direction of like systemically being a factor that you can't control, I feel like it's relevant to talk about like rural versus urban areas and kind of compare these statistics to.
Yeah. Okay. How would that be relevant though?
Well,
This is a good point. So go ahead.
so urban areas, it depends on population density of different races. So if we're to sit here and look at these numbers and talk about how blacks make a whole lot less than whites, we should also compare where they're living and what their lifestyles might look like
Okay.
according to where they live.
Okay. All right. So maybe they're predominantly living in areas of the country where people earn less money.
Correct.
Okay. Somebody else. Where would you go? By the way, we could talk about, just understand, we have 46 minutes to talk about this, and we could talk about it for the next 46 days, 24 hours a day straight, and we'd just be like getting into it. So go ahead. Where else would you go?
The first thing that I thought when I looked at this chart was just, I think that it's interesting that Asians are at the top because they, like, if I think about like my parents or whatever, they have to come to the country and be able to make money and stuff like that. So I don't know if that makes them think that they have to make it and have to work harder in order to make that much money. But at the same time, when I think of the richest people in the US, I think of white people. So I understand this is the median, but it surprises me that there's such a big gap as well.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Wait, let me push back. Hey, by the way, I'm going to struggle here a little bit because there's so many things to talk about that each thing that one of you says, I got to decide whether we're going to go down that door because there's so few doors, right? Yeah. Okay, so go back to your parents for a second. So they come here and what?
Yeah, and that means for like anyone that is an immigrant from any country, it's not just my parents in specific, but like if you had to come from a different country and learn how to make money here and stuff, I think it's a different type of pressure that you're put under because you don't have the resources here, or maybe like you don't know anyone if you came from another country or something like that. So you are forced to work really hard to make the money without the connections, and you have to like build them yourself.
Okay, so you're talking about this pathway up here, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so if you come here as an immigrant,
Yeah.
you got to make a bunch of decisions to get you up here, right? Like a lot of stuff is happening. What about down there? What must be happening down there?
The people that didn't have to come to the country and that started here, or
the
what?
same immigrants, because the two are in play all the time. Can you go back a slide? Go back two
okay.
slides, actually. Remember, free will, personal choices,
Yeah.
okay? And down there is factors outside your control, and it's or, but we're going to focus on and here, okay? So, okay, go ahead. Two more. All right, so go ahead. What about, someone else can take this. So, wait, hang on. I got to be really clear. Amani, Kyle, and Paridi? Paridi. Okay. Sir Paridi. Did I do okay? Paridi.
Yeah. That's
Paridi.
the American way.
Yeah, the American way. How do your parents say it?
Paridi.
Paridi.
The
Paridi,
rolling the R.
Yeah,
is what-
Paridi. Okay, but I'll say Paridi. All right. So, So what Pariti just said, you're talking down here, but now talk down there about her parents. Yeah, anybody can take it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just summarize everything that I want to say, honestly, because for black people...
No, stick with her parents for a second.
With hers. So we're going on like the free will one, the free will side? Oh, he's taking pictures. Okay.
No, we did free will here. You're going to go down to that.
All right. So factors out of control. All right.
What are some things you'd have to consider?
I would really just say the systems in the U.S. There are a lot of things that all races cannot really control, especially like the economic systems that we have here in place in the U.S. Some things cannot actually, like some systems, like for instance, I guess getting a loan or whatnot is sometimes harder based on like where you live or like how much income you get. And some of these things sometimes are actually not out of your control based on many factors. So I would really just think that it's just many factors, honestly, that we just kind of control.
Okay, but what? Why do you think Asians, why do you think Asians have such higher income on average?
Now, for me, I can't talk for Asians because obviously, look at me. So what I would say, honestly, from my personal experience with some Asians that I've met, I would honestly say it's like, especially the students, not the parents themselves, but the students. They were brought up into households where their parents were really hardworking, and they came from wherever they came from, and they had to provide for their family because they were escaping something that was worse than what that they have right now. So the students are born into it. They kind of control what their parents did in the past. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think it's like about their work ethic in a sense.
Okay, so you're socialized into a certain work ethic. Something else. Kyle, do you have something?
Yeah, so I think that every decision that you make, if you're, in Preeti's example, coming to the country as like her parents, there's a trade-off to every single decision you make. So if you choose to move to New York, for example, you're missing the lifestyle and the other factors that would be present in any other location that you may choose to live. So that's one example, I guess, of something that's out of your control in a sense.
Okay, what else?
I have something to add. What he was saying
that was good, by the way. Yeah,
about work ethic and stuff. I think that plays a big factor in the way that we were raised, and like in all Asians, not just like Indians, but I think the way that you think of school and like respect school almost I don't know how to explain it. It's not like a god, but it's like a gift that you go to school, and it's like very important. Like grades are just very important, right? Like starting from elementary school. Like you have to go to school every day. You have to like shower before school. You have to respect your teachers. Like that's just like random little things that might be specific, but the way that we were raised to respect school is different than the way that I've seen other people respect school growing up than how I was taught to.
Okay, let me ask. Let's go here. Which Asians are coming here? Who's coming here from Asia? Like who's gonna tend to emigrate to the United States from Asia?
The ones who think they can have a better life in this country than they do at home.
Okay, so are they the poorer people or wealthier people, or it doesn't really matter?
I would just say it all depends on like what kind of lifestyle they want. So I don't know if they don't have to be poor, they don't have to be rich. It all depends on the lifestyle that they want to have.
Okay, so you're going to be, so now let's walk down here for a second, right? So what I'm hearing, so these are people who believe that you can have a better life. Are they going to be lazy people, hardworking people? Like who are they going to be? You can stay focused on the front. Are they going to be the hardworking people, the lazy people? Like who are they going to be? Because take India, you got over 1 billion people in India. So which ones are coming here?
It has to be the hardworking ones.
The hardworking ones, right? Okay, so the ones who don't respect education or don't want to invest money in education or whatever the case is, like they're not coming.
Well, I didn't mean the people that don't respect education and stuff from there. I mean here.
Okay.
Like when I enter school and stuff, the way that I think about school versus my peers around me makes a big difference in how I succeed or how other people succeed.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
And I would guess that there are probably millions and millions of school kids that could talk about, even you all in here, talk about the Asian kid in your class who like, yeah, in high school we had these Asian kids, and they were like the ones who were always quiet or always hardworking or always this or always that or whatever the case is. And then they really put that emphasis in education, and they went one place or another, right? So, but now I want to come down here. I want to look at Asian households. What's going on that puts them on top? These are things that people don't necessarily control. They're just things that are them. So what's it take to get here, for example, from Mexico? Who can come to the U.S. from Mexico? Any of you? You're Mexican. You're poor. You're rich. You're whatever. You're poor and you're Mexican. You gonna try to come to the U.S.?
I would assume so, anywhere else with the opportunity, I guess.
So you could do that, though, right? So now you're coming from India. How are you going to get here to the U.S.? It's like you can get here illegally, right? It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you need to get a visa. Who's getting a visa to the United States from India? Who do you think's getting a visa? Kyle? Anybody? Any of you?
I honestly don't know, so I don't want to misspeak, but probably people that have connections or solid jobs. I know that the vetting process of the United States, in terms of handing out visas, they want people who are going to, the system generally operates that they want people that are going to contribute into the system.
Yeah, and everyone's going to contribute, mind you, right? Everybody, because we need people, for example, hang on one sec. We're going to come back to this, so just let it go. So we need people to teach this class. We need people to run the technology, and we need people to sweep the floors every night at the end of the day. So everybody contributes. I contribute, but the people sweeping the floors also contribute, and we need those people as well. So, okay, but they're pretty easy, and we got plenty of those people that are going to come from Mexico, let's say, or Central America or South America or whatever. But in order to get on an airplane and land in LaGuardia or JFK or Dulles or Chicago O'Hare or LAX, in order to get past customs, what do you got to have?
I think you really have to have like some type of connection to someone here to be able to help you once you land, figure it out. Like it's just like moving to any country, whether it's from like
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be to the U.S., but any country you're going to have to adjust, and someone's going to have to teach you the way that things are done here and how they're different from wherever home is.
But listen, but Mexicans have that connection, right? You have millions and millions of Mexicans in the U.S. Everybody's got a cousin, right? If you know anything about Mexicans, you know that everybody's got many cousins, right? So my Mexican friends that just have a long list of cousins. So they got people. But to get on an airplane and to get the visa from the U.S. consulate, to be like, yes, I'm going to, dude, hang on. To be like, I'm going to go to the United States and I'm going to study, something else has to happen. You gotta be in a certain position. So you're going to be, it's going to be some factors and forces outside of your control. Like you were born into a wealthier family. You were able somehow to get an education. You're able to somehow do well enough, and you're going to apply to graduate school in the United States, and you're going to stay. You're going to do something. Same with Africans. If you're coming from Africa, right? Central America is a little different. I mean, the Caribbean, because there are different ways around. But if you're coming from Africa, man, the only way you're getting here is on an airplane. So, like, you better have something that's going to get you that visa. Because if you don't have that visa, it's never going to happen. So now we got free will. You can want it as much as you possibly can. But you also got it. Some other things must be going on. What's another thing about Asians, for example, that's happened in the most recent 30 years that you guys know about? Like your parents, probably. I don't know you. I don't know your parents, but I know your parents already. I know nothing about you, but I already know. Right? They had college degrees. They came here. And did they go to graduate school here?
I don't think my dad went to Penn State.
Yeah.
So he came here when he was like 3 or 4, but my mom was poor in India. I think the only reason she was able to come here was because she got married.
Because she got married to your dad.
Like arranged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so one thing that we see is like increasingly larger and larger numbers of people from South Asia and East Asia already have degrees. And they're coming here with their degrees. And what are their degrees in? bro. So hang on. What are the degrees in? Sociology, bro? What do you think their degrees are in? Linguistics?
Obviously the ones that it's the degrees that make money. I don't know which ones exactly, but like I would say engineering, I would say medicine, computer engineering, anything that makes money, like that makes the most money in the system.
Okay, that's one. Here's the other one, right? When I show up, so I'm from Mumbai, and I show up at the consulate and say like, hey, I'm a sociologist. I'm from Mumbai. I live in Mumbai. And I say, hey, I want to go to the United States and I want to work. And I have a sociology degree, so I can contribute to the United States. What are they going to say? Bro, what are they going to say?
You just study sociology in a completely different system.
They're going to say, we don't need sociologists. But let's say that I show up, I'm from Mumbai, and I have a degree in, biotechnology. Are they going to listen to what I have to say? Are they going to be more interested? I mean, like, this is the whole thing, right? This is the whole growth of the sector. We don't need another sociologist. So all the sociology majors, they're back in India, right? They're back in China. They're back in Korea. They're back wherever. Because like it's going to be much more difficult to get into the United States. But the high-tech sector, engineering, medicine, whatever it is, those things, okay, hey, well, we're much more interested. So now let's look at black people. So wait, hang on. First off, so you see Asians. This isn't every Asian, but now you start to see some things. So it's people's choices, because was your parents in arranged marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your dad came when he was 3.
Yeah, my dad came to the U.S. when he was 3. He had his whole life here.
Yep, exactly. So now
And then he went back to India to meet girls.
Yeah, to meet girls, and he found
And then
your
he got
mom.
an arranged marriage. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay, so now we get a sense of Asia, okay, of the Asian number. It's like, oh, maybe that's a little disproportionately high, because the other side would be to say, Asians, wow, they make that much money? They must work really, really hard, right? Like, wow. So like we take on average, Pariti is going to she's going to work a lot harder than you guys. Look at that. She's making more on average. It's like, no, dude, that's not, okay? Or that has nothing to do with it. Okay, so you see that, right? We're just beginning to touch this. Okay, so now let's go with black people. What's going on?
For black people now, the point that you made about who works harder than who, I remember you mentioned that in another class. I really don't think it depends on like whatever race you are. You can work as hard as you are. You can work as hard as you want, and you can achieve the goals regardless. But as you were saying, when we have factors that are out of our control, for black people now, there's so many issues that affect us, and which causes us to no matter how hard we work, no matter how much time we put in, some things we just cannot accomplish.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying.
But like for all people, dude, look.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah,
man.
it's a huge difference. I know. And
how do you explain all that? Like what? Okay, so go ahead.
Is it because of
No,
the
we're going to keep going. But
amount of people? Like he was saying, is it because of the amount of people? Like there's just
No.
so many more Asians.
It's not about the amount of people. No, there's more black people. But it's not about the amount of people. It's not about where they live. Let's think about because black people and Asian people, look, half of all Asians live in the western half of the United States. The western 40% of the U.S.
How can we say it's not about where they live, though?
Well, it is at some level, but there are enough people that, let's just not bring that in for a second, because it's not that important. It is important for some things, but not at the level at which we're talking.
I think it's pretty important, though.
I was going to say the West Coast has like higher salaries, right? So if there's more Asians because of the cost of living on the West Coast is higher, like if I think of California, then, maybe like somewhere here.
I got it, but it doesn't explain that.
Okay. Can I butt in?
No, go ahead. Please feel.
So what I was also I want to elaborate on what I was saying. Now, I can't speak for all black people. In fact, I can.
Go ahead.
I'm right
dude.
here.
You're speaking
Yeah,
for all
I'm
black
right
people.
here though. But a lot of times, even in my own personal experiences, I've realized that despite, how hard I work, how much time I put in, trying to be, I even tried to be a teacher's pet because, oh, hello? Oh, okay. Yeah, I even tried to be a teacher's pet. Well, I was a teacher's pet in school because I had to because of the things that, I would have to do to come to the U.S. And, let's say, especially back in St. Lucia, in my school, we didn't have that many, white people, Asians and whatnot, obviously, because it's a Caribbean country.
Yeah.
But when we would have them, I would realize the teachers would favor them more.
Uh-huh.
And, be nicer to them. And I would have to stick out, even if I'm in a predominantly black, country.
Uh-huh.
I would still have to stick out in that, in that setting. And for me, I had to work way harder than a lot of the students in my own class. But even if I worked harder, these students will even get higher grades than me. They'll have way more opportunities than me. And I don't know why. I can't explain it. I can explain why. Now, for that household income and net worth thing, it goes back to the system in the U.S. There's so many systems in the U.S. that prevent black people from making a certain amount of money. And
Dude, you got it. Okay, can you explain what those are? Because
now
I
can get into it.
go
All
ahead.
right.
Because you're now you've walked on. Let me just tell you where you walked. You've walked. It's like a plank,
Mm-hmm.
It's like you walk down to the edge of the plank, and you're going to either have to dive in or you got to go backwards somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds to me like you're going down the road of blaming it all on opportunity and discrimination.
Oh no.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me
All right, keep
elaborate.
going.
No, I'm not doing that. So I'm going back into the systems in the U.S. itself.
Okay.
I made an example about the loans and whatnot. Let's say a black guy wants to get a loan, but he's also, I remember the point he was making about your location as well. He was making a point about your location, and let's say you grew up in I don't know, in a bad neighborhood.
Yep.
And you're trying to apply for a loan to get a house in one of the up there neighborhoods. It'll be much harder for you to get a loan.
Okay.
And I can explain
And that would
why.
be true. That's true of anybody from any of these groups,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
So that's why, I think location also has a factor to play, but it's not the biggest, factor.
Yeah, because listen, man, because you got to explain this, right? There are a couple things here that are really key. You got to explain why that is so low compared to these numbers up here, and why that is so low. Right here, 24,000, man. Median income. I mean, median. That's household net worth.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so low. How do you explain that? So here's my first question. Come down here. Do black people want to make as much money as white people
Oh yeah.
and Asian people?
Of course, you want to make money.
Okay, so they all do, right? Everybody wants to make money. Do black people know that, hey, in order to make money, I'm going to have to save money? Do as many black people know that as white people and Asian people?
Any race.
That's standard ideas, right? That's standard thinking. Would the two of you agree with that?
Wait, can you repeat that?
That black people want to make as much money as white people and Asian people, and that basically black people also know, hey, if I want to make a lot of money, I'm going to have to invest it, save it, do something unique. I don't know, something like that. Would you two agree with that? That's standard, right? Okay, so then would you also have the idea that black people are pretty smart
Yeah.
and black people are pretty hardworking?
Yeah.
Okay? Black people are, so would you all agree that black people are just as hardworking as everybody else? On average. We're not
On
talking-
average, yeah.
Because I got black students in here, you haven't done a single thing all semester because you're lazy, right? And I got white students in there, some of you haven't done a single thing all semester because you're lazy. Hispanic, Asian students, whatever, same thing. You haven't done a damn thing all semester because you're lazy. But the hardest working people are from all the groups, right? So we can say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so therefore, I can pick any individual person out and I can say, yeah, there are people in every one of these groups that they just don't even want to they don't want to bother to lift their foot to get up to the next step. I mean, dude, it's a simple lift, man. Like, bro, come on, man. It's a simple lift. Just do this and go like this. Whoop. You got it. Like, but there are people that don't even want to do that. But most people do, right? And there are people that don't know how to do that. But most people know how. Okay? So we're in agreement down here that in the population as a whole, of all the black people, all the Hispanic people, there are people who just don't want to do it, but most people do. In the white population, there are people that don't want to do it, but most people do. Most people work, okay? Most people want to work. Most people, dude, I can go to any community. Like, you might be thinking now, yeah, but hey, Sam, but you should be in my town where it's all the X group of people. They're the ones sitting on their front porches. They're the ones collecting welfare. They're the ones not working hard. They're the ones who just want to take and not receive. I got you. That might be true in your community, but I'll take you to another community where it's people just like you who just want to sit on their porches and do nothing and collect welfare and drink Natty Light or whatever the case is. Okay? Go ahead, bro.
I kind of have this theory that, like, a lot of the system, because I don't know if you want to talk solutions potentially, but I think a lot of the error in the system is in that programs like Medicaid and Medicare. So let me take a step back. Our economy, our capitalistic economy, functions off of incentive. So incentive provides you the want to be successful, the want to work hard. And if you have systems, and this is why I think geographically it's so significant, if you have systems where, let's say in a population of strictly black individuals, you have increased programs that give Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
Are you not robbing people of their incentive?
Yeah, you are, but here's the problem. When we look at the United States, when we look at who's getting Medicaid, who's getting welfare, who's getting food stamps, who's getting all these things that would presumably take away from incentives, the majority of people who are getting assistance from those programs are white people, right? So yeah, so maybe those things take incentive away, because I might be like, I'm going to go back to you, bro. What's your name again? Oh yeah, that's right. All right. So listen, man, I may go back to you and be like, maybe he doesn't want to lift his foot there because he's like, fuck. If I lift my foot and I go up here, then I'm going to have to get a job, man. But if I stay right down here, I can just get the incentives. I can take care of stuff, and I don't have to do anything. I can just sit around and play video games all day, right? So, but that's true of every group. So it's not more true of one group or another, but that would be a good hypothesis. So one thing that Kyle just said, if you heard that, like, maybe one hypothesis is that some groups of people are more likely to receive some benefits from the system or from the state that deprive them or rob them or take away their incentives to actually do something for themselves, which would be, let me run up these stairs right here and make something of myself on my own. But I don't really have to do that. But that's a great hypothesis. It doesn't go there. So what else do we have? With black people, Hispanic people, like what else? Do you think it's all discrimination? Wait, you say no? Why do you say no?
I don't believe it's only discrimination. Discrimination does have a part to play, obviously. I don't think it's only just discrimination.
But what part and how much discrimination, right? Like how much? So discrimination is involved, right?
Yeah.
So this is the question, by the way. So Amani is actually, listen to what he just said here, right? Because this is what we're fighting over. Discrimination is involved, but I don't think it's only discrimination. Okay? You got it? It's involved, but I don't think it's only discrimination. So my question to him, and that I want you to answer, and I want the two of you to also weigh in. So how much discrimination is there?
Do you want like a quantifiable amount?
Well, I want to know, just something. Because here's the question. Because now you're speaking to the American people, right? And you got to explain the difference here. Man, you got to explain that difference. Is there enough discrimination to explain this difference? Or this one right here. 24,000 versus 189,000. Or for Hispanics, 36,000 versus 189,000.
I was going to say, is it like one example would be who's more likely to be hired for a job just based on the way that you look?
Yeah, but is that enough to explain all of those things?
I mean,
That's a lot. That's a
Probably
huge difference.
Yeah, it
man.
is. It is. Like, discrimination does have a major part to play. I will agree in that. I do believe that. And I remember you talking about like they want to take the step up and whatnot. What I believe is that, I can't speak for all people, but what I can say is that it's all about like, what do you want out of life? Like, what do you want in life? Because now that's a vague point, but what do you want in life? Now, what you were saying about the
Yeah.
Oh, am I good?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead.
So you were talking about taking a step up. Now, in many households, let's say let me talk about black people. Let me just talk about black people. Let's say there's like some rich. In fact, no, let me not talk about black people right now. I don't want to fight out my own people. Let's say there's just some rich white kid. All right, there's a rich white kid. All right,
Talk about rich.
rich.
Talk about white people. Rich
Yes,
white people and
yes.
poor white people.
Yes. All right. Now, let's say their mindset, the student's mindset, is that they don't need to work as hard because they have their daddy's money, they have their mom's money, so they don't need to take that step up. They don't need to do that. Whereas there'll be some other kids that'll say, all right, yeah, I need to work no matter how much money I have. Now that can apply to even black people as well, because there could be black people and black kids that grew up with money and they're laid back. They're like, I don't need to work, I don't need a job, so they wouldn't go in the workforce.
Dude, here's all you got to do. As
Oh.
Pirani, you grew up with Paridi. Dude,
That was so bad.
It's okay.
That was so bad.
man. Did you grow up with money? Your parents have money?
I don't think it's like an insane amount,
But
but
they're-
I'm paying out-of-state tuition for Penn State.
And they're
so,
paying out-of-state tuition.
Yeah.
Do you feel, okay, so she's got money. Do you have any sense that, like, yeah, I don't have to work hard. My parents are paying out-of-state tuition.
No, but to add to what he was saying, I think it's also, like I was saying, like what type of jobs, I don't know, I guess like different, each race would be like its own thing, but I was going to say, what type of jobs are you thinking about that you want to be when you're young, or what type of jobs your parents expect you to have, or the work ethic that they have you working towards? Like, is a marketing major an option for you, or is it an engineer? Like, what are you working towards, and what were you raised to work towards, and what were the people around you
All
or
right.
your family? Like, what are your parents?
Okay.
And things like
okay.
that.
All right. So here, let me respond to these two things, and then we'll come to you. Look, first off, nobody. I don't know that I've ever met anybody except a handful of people, and probably nobody in here, maybe a couple people, who have this idea like, hey, my parents are taking care of everything. They got enough money. I don't really have to work. Like, that's just not part of the human consciousness, really.
I've met some people like that.
No, hang on. I know some people like that, okay? I shouldn't downplay that enough. But it's not enough to explain all of this, right? It's fine for a couple people. So and what we keep doing is we keep staying down here with what people themselves are deciding, what people are thinking, what people are imagining for themselves. And we're not talking about the things down here. You just did when you said, well, it's the kind of jobs that maybe are, but you did it as down there. You said it's the kind of jobs people desire for themselves, like people see as available for themselves. And I'm like, for me, the only way that you're going to really understand these vast differences is if you stay down here at this end. Things that are outside of our control. Because I will tell you that I was like, so first off, when I was in grad school, I lived in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I lived in probably the single most dangerous and troubling neighborhood in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And like the kids were just selling, and this was back in the crack epidemic. And on every corner, kids were selling crack, right? And they were not kids that looked like me. And these kids, and they were hard working and they were really smart. They were probably math geniuses, every one of them. And they're really hard working. And I'm like, and they wanted to climb that ladder. And they're just like, yeah, well, whatever. This is the ladder I'm going to climb. So they worked hard. They were really smart. They could have been, they were entrepreneurs. They could have been successful in lots of different places. So like, we wiped that off for a second. So now we're down here. It's a structural question. How do we explain these differences? Do you have something, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, once again, it depends on where you're born. And that's something that is out of your control.
Part of it depends what class you're born in and where you're born. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
I was just looking at some statistics. It looks like the southeast of the country
Yep.
has by far the largest population of blacks.
Yep.
Additionally, if you overlay the graph of income, it's also the lowest income in
Yep.
that bottom corner, which agree with these statistics.
Okay.
But it also draws a direct correlation to location, which is why I think it's very
Yep.
significant. And
It's
if you're
significant.
if you're going to talk about the significance of a median, then you also have to talk about the significance of a median in terms of geography as well.
Okay, I got you. It's significant. And then if we take that, so did you all hear what he said? So let's look at what the incomes are in certain parts of the country, and then look at largely who's living there, and then everyone's going to make more money, right? Like if you're in a really high income earning city and you make pizzas for a living, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money making pizzas in that city than you are working in Bellefonte, PA, 10 miles down the road. That's just the nature of it, right? So look, okay, you're going to make more money. But bro, aside from that, so we're going to step off that for a second. What else is going on here? How do you explain this? Because thus far, what I'm seeing is, and this is what we're trying to think here. We're trying to think in new ways. What I'm seeing is every answer we come up with stays right here, as though in the end, it's the responsibility of people themselves, where they're at, and we want to get down here. So how do we get down here?
Now that I had some time to think, what's your name again? Preeti. All right. What she was talking about, the types of jobs that, that they would, go and get.
Okay.
But you also have to think about the jobs that they can actually get. Now, I'm going to give like a little point about the location as well. So let's say, let me give a random example. Let's say you're from a dangerous neighborhood that has a bad stereotype put on it, and it's out of your control. You're not the one who controls that. You're from that neighborhood, and you're from a race that, is highly discriminated. Let me just say a black person, for instance.
Okay.
All right. That's out of your control as well. Now, let's say you try to apply to a job in one of the more wealthier states, or in a state that has that's predominantly white, and you're coming from that I guess disadvantaged neighborhood, that dangerous neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you also have that you're black going for you right now.
Okay.
So you going up there to that, to that predominantly, white area, and you try to apply for a job that, that you can be as smart as you want. You can be as smart as you can have all the degrees that you want. But let's say you go up there and you have that stigma placed on you already. You have two stigmas placed on you. You're black and you're from a dangerous neighborhood. So I think that you will most likely, I wouldn't say most likely, because there's always a possibility that you can get that job.
More likely.
You're more likely, to not get that job.
Okay, so listen. That's going to apply to some people.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, cool. That's true across the board, right? It doesn't matter who you are or what your background is. If you're stepping outside of your particular culture and trying to get into another culture and you don't necessarily fit in that culture, then you're going to be impacted in that way. Okay, so that's going to be true for some people. But let me remind everybody that 50% of all black people in the United States are middle class. And then of the other 50%, you have the upper middle and rich black people, and then you have poor people. Okay? So let's just hold that for a second. So don't think black people and think, oh, poor. Like, okay, all black people, because I just want to clarify this, because given the example you just said would be lead people to, oh yeah, well, that explains it. Black people are more likely to be from violent neighborhoods, and therefore, like, no. Most black people are not from violent neighborhoods. Most black people are from middle-class neighborhoods. So now we got to say, like, all right, where do we go here, right? So another one. What else is going on? Here. This is the structure. This is the sociology. You got it? This is the hardest thing, is to explain. And y'all got to, hang on. Everyone look at me for a second. And by the way, you're not supposed to be on your phones, right? Is that like a thing? So listen. The hardest thing is to come up with a systematic analysis for how it is that these differences are as great as they are, and not sound dumb and not be extreme. It's easy to sound dumb. I've sounded dumb many, many times. When Fox News grabs a clip of me talking about this stuff where I'm only looking at one side of the issue, because I'm going to look at this side first, and then I'm going to look at the other side, and then they only take the one clip because they need a new white savior star on Tucker Carlson's show. And so they take just this one. Then you miss out on all the other stuff. So what I'm trying to do is get us over here to continue to say, no, man, what explains that? What else explains it? Got anything else? Do you guys got anything else? What else? Let's just stick with hang on one second. I know some of you guys all want to talk, but look, let's just stick with this down here. Household income. How do black people not have more money than they have? Why don't they have more money than they had? This is pretty straight up. Paridi, why don't Hispanic people have more money, man?
I just keep thinking about what the population of all these people in the U.S. is, because I feel like if you have significantly more of one group to choose from, your median is going to be higher.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not. So go ahead, try another one. It's going to change a little bit, but it's not going to be significantly higher. It might actually be a little bit lower, but it won't. It's going to be different for sure. So I'm with you on that.
What about college degrees by race?
Yeah, but why do some people have more college degrees then? What is it? Why do black and Hispanic people and Native American people, why do they fall behind white and Asian people? First off, why are Asians out front? Why are Asians out front? Why are Indians so much more likely to have college degrees in the United States?
Not getting a college degree is not an option.
It's not an option. Why isn't it an option?
Because that's how we were raised.
But that's not how Indians are raised. Do you know what the percentage of India is that has college degrees?
Do
you know, bro?
Oh, does he?
No.
They are here to get degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean the people?
No, exactly. Dude, do you know what's the percentage of Indians in India who have college degrees? Do you know what that is?
It's probably low, but I think that statistic, it's representative of people with determination that want to come here for a better life.
Exactly. So it's less than 10%.
Okay.
So of all of the people in India that have college degrees, once you get your college degree, you're far more likely to be like, all right, man. First off, if you don't have a college degree and you show up at the U.S. consulate and say, hey, I want a visa to go to the United States because I want to work at Wendy's, you're not coming, man. You're not coming, okay? But the guy behind you or the woman behind you, same in Korea, same in China, same in wherever, but the guy behind you is like, yeah, I got my college degree in biomechanical engineering and I want to go to the United States. It's like, all right, we'll talk. So all those people, so it's the people who are coming here who are already having college degrees. And then I have kids, and it's not an option, right? What'd your parents tell you, basically? I mean, it's not an option.
Like doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's it. That's all you're going to do. Okay.
Now, I can talk for international black students.
Yeah.
because a lot of us, we have to come up to the States for the same reason as, Indians, so that we have to get our degree. We have to, pursue degrees that get money, like accounting, to be, like my mom even told me, man, you have to be a lawyer when you grow up. You have to be a lawyer. You're going to be with this or that,
Yeah.
And I know for many other kids, they need to become, as they said, engineers, they need to be a doctor, So they come up here for that, for that degree.
Well, it's not, dude, but here's the key.
Uh-huh.
We wouldn't let them in here if it wasn't for that degree. You got it? Like, if you weren't applying to college, or if you weren't applying to graduate school, or if you didn't already have your college degree and you were applying for a specific job, probably in the tech center, you would not even get the H-1B visa or the visa to come work here.
But I think that applies to almost to all the races that, apart from Americans.
It
and
applies
I guess
to everybody.
Yeah, it applies to everyone.
No, it applies to everybody. It applies to Europeans who are coming
Yeah.
here. It just so happens that a pretty small percentage of the population of Europe is interested in coming to the United States. But lots of people in China and Korea and India and South and Central America
I feel like
are
that's
coming.
becoming less and less true.
Yeah, sure.
Just
Yeah.
because not that the standard of living there is better, but if you have the same degree there or here, you might be able to make more money there and have a better standard of life
No,
in comparison.
No, especially in the past 5 to 10 years
Yeah.
as the tech sector has taken off in China and in Korea and in India.
It's just becoming
Yeah.
less attractive to come here because you can be richer there with the same thing.
Yeah, totally. So now I want to go back to this median income question. Why are black people lagging behind? Our median net worth, right? Why are black people lagging behind so much?
I mean, you keep asking this question.
Yeah, nobody's
And-
answering it. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna be honest. I came here to learn why that actually happens. So I've given as much answers that I can give, but from what I'm getting from this whole conversation is that there's just so much that we kind of just discuss in this one class.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about more, but okay, so go ahead.
And I just believe there's just so many factors, man. So
Okay.
many factors, and that's all I can really say.
All right, so many factors. All right, go ahead. Final. Hey, yo, hang on. I got 30 seconds. 15 to you. Why? Do you have an answer to that?
I don't know, actually.
Do you have your final answer?
I just want to say, I don't know why we shot down geography as a big significant factor.
I didn't shoot it down. I said it's not as important as you think it is. All right, listen, man. Hey, if you're like trying to you're itching to get out of your seat and say something, come talk to me. Maybe you'll volunteer on Thursday. If you want to talk to Michael Black down here about the proposal at the first part of class, come talk to him. He's down in the front.